Today, I'm going to show you 3 great meals that will cost you under $15 and will also make you 2 good-sized portions. The first dish I'm going to do is one that I have kind of done on this channel, but with a little twist. It's going to be a chili crisp Alfredo. I have some green onion here, some mushrooms, mafalda pasta, which is freshly made, some parm. I have salt, pepper, a little bit of cream, and a little bit of some chili oil, chili crisp. While I chop all this up, I'm going to walk you through just kind of the overall premise here. At the end of each recipe, I'll show you what it costs to buy all the ingredients. Like, for instance, that thing of cream cost, let's say, $5. If I used half of it, I will show that it cost me $2.50 for this recipe. Yes, I know it didn't cost me $15 to buy everything, but the things that I buy that are only useful for the recipe, I will include the full price of. I will also assume that you have salt, pepper, butter, those kind of things. So I'm not going to include those prices. I know some people are going to be mad that all the ingredients total were not $15, but trust me, the things that aren't going to be used 100% of, you will be able to use in the future. That's why I'm breaking those prices down. But to start here, we're just going to throw these mushrooms into a pan with some oil. We're going to just kind of brown these and start to cook them down, and then we're going to take them out. I'm going to hit them with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper at this point, and we're just going to let them get a little bit of color, let out a little bit of their liquids, and just not become super raw. They'll get cooked into the sauce in a few minutes, but I just wanted to give them a nice, brief cook to start. Right around there is as far as I'm going to let these go. And then I'm going to take them out, I'm just going to throw them on a plate, and now we're going to make the chili crisp sauce base, which is a mix of about a tablespoon or 2 of butter, and then any sort of chili oil, chili crisp that you can get. This is actually a little jar of chili oil that I have from Din Tai Fung, which is a fantastic Taiwanese dumpling place. But you can get your chili oil at Chili Crisp anywhere. Just mix that until it becomes nice and homogeneous. And then we're going to add in around 4 ounces of cream, which is half of this container of cream, maybe a little more, 6. And then we're just going to mix this up until it's nice and homogeneous and the oil kind of mixes with that cream. It might take a minute or 2, but you'll be good to go. And that cream will last in your fridge for quite a while. So you will definitely find another use for it. I'm going to give it just a little bit of seasoning at this point, and we're going to let this slowly reduce over the next 2 or 3 minutes. Give it a stir every once in a while because the oil will try to separate. That's a little bit of white pepper as well, but you just need to keep mixing it up and it'll become a really nice color. That's exactly what you're looking for right there. Perfect. I'm going to throw that pasta in. This is fresh pasta that I got at my local Italian grocery, so you can get even cheaper in this dish if you go with just store-bought pasta. It only takes about 2 minutes, so once I get that sauce of that consistency where you could pull the spatula through it and it leaves a nice opening behind it, I'm going to put the mushrooms back in. We're going to add a little bit of parm, not a lot. You know, an entire block like that is a good 16 ounces or so. I'm going to use maybe 2 ounces at most. Mix that together, throw in that pasta. Give it a nice mix right now, and you're going to do like all other pasta sauces here. Just mix it, add a little more cheese if you want, add that pasta water to get the consistency to what you're looking for. I'm going to throw in a little bit of green onion shortly just because I take those white parts at the end and let them cook for just a minute in the heat so they loosen up. And that's it. That's your entire dish. Mix in a little more cheese. So maybe I used 3 ounces total, but that's the entire dish. Once I get those green onions in, you're done here. You're ready to plate this. I'm going to add a little more pasta water just to get the consistency I want. You don't want it too thick. You want it to kind of coat the noodles evenly, but you don't want it to be very kind of tight. If it gets too tight, add that pasta water. And now we're going to plate this up. Very easily, just throw it right onto a plate. I'm not doing anything trying to fancy here. I'm just trying to show you simple $15 dinners. If you want to do breadcrumbs, go right ahead. That would have put my price over, so I didn't, but I just top it with a little extra cheese, a little extra green onion, and there's my cost. This came out to $13.27. You can see I counted the full box of pasta. I counted all of the green onion. Everything else I broke down. Very easy, 13 bucks. Now on to dish number 2, we're going to take some nice large raw shrimp and we're going to make very easy shrimp tacos. These are 31 to 40 shrimp per pound, so this is a 2-pound bag. I got a bunch taken out already here. As you can see, they're rock solid, so I'm going to have to defrost those. But that entire bag, this is probably less than half of them, and that entire bag was not very expensive. So that's why this is a great recipe. To thaw these, I like to just run them under cold water. You don't need to use warm water, cold water. Barely 5 minutes, and these will be good to go. You can see they're immediately ready to peel. If you could find totally peeled one at the store, that's fine. These are not easy. They're already deveined, so the work is done for you. I'm going to put the shells also into a Ziploc bag and just the regular shrimp into a little bowl. That way, if I ever want to make some shrimp stock or any sort of seafood bisque, These shells are worth their weight in gold. But the reason I've also never done this on the channel before is because this is so quick and so simple, it would have been like a 1-minute video. So there's all my shrimp. This should be enough for 2 people to have 2 or 3 tacos each. I'm going to pour these out onto a paper towel. I'm just going to dab them off, get them a little bit dry because we're now going to marinate them a little bit. You don't need to do that step. I'm going to cover them in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and we're going to just pour in a little bit of soy sauce, and we're going to let them sit in that little soy sauce mixture for maybe a minute or 2, maybe up to 15 minutes, depending on how much time you want to do going into this meal. I did a little soy sauce because I'm going to make a wasabi mayo to go with this, so I thought a kind of nice Asian theme would be nice. But now just push those to the side. I'm using shredded lettuce in a bag because that is the most cost effective. If you want to buy a whole head of lettuce and chop it up, be my guest. I'm going to need some lime as well, so I'm just going to cut these into quarters and then eighths. I'm going to chop up a tomato also to put in. If you want to take out all the harder parts of the inside of the tomato, that's totally fine, but I'm going to use the whole thing. I'm going to cut it into a fairly large dice. I think the kind of contrast and texture of the really soft parts where the seeds are versus the harder inner pulp, I really kind of like that. But I'm just going to throw that into a bowl, and now I'm going to push that off to the side. I'm going to show you how I make my wasabi mayo. All you need for this is just the mayo of your choice and then some store-bought wasabi paste. Try to get as good a quality as you can for your flavors, but I'm just going to mix those two together, and then I'm going to add in a very little drop of lime juice, fresh squeezed lime. Mix that to the consistency you're looking for. If you want a little spicier, add a little more of that wasabi. If you want it a little more tangy because you added too much, just put in a little more mayo and a little more lime juice. Here's the tortillas. This is a pack of 8. We're going to use about half of those today. All you need to do is put them onto a plate with some wet paper towels, throw them in the microwave for about 30 seconds, and they'll be ready to go. If you want to toast them or anything else, be my guest, however you like them. But this is just the easiest way to get these going for a very, very easy taco night. Now on to cooking the shrimp. This is super simple. I'm going to put in a neutral oil so I could sear these guys pretty hot. We're going to get that to a decent temperature. I don't want it super hot right away because they will splatter because they are marinated. But once you throw those in, just let them cook on each side for maybe a minute or 2. These shrimp are small enough that they will go very, very quickly. You don't need to do much to these. That's why this dish, from start to finish, this is probably a 15-minute dish. It is very, very easy, very quick. That's why I wanted to throw this in, highlight it. It didn't make sense to do it as a regular video because it would have been so short and you would have been like, yeah, I know how to cook shrimp. But for highlighting its simplicity and its cost effectiveness, I thought it was the perfect dish here. That's it. Those shrimp are done. Just toss them around a little bit. If you want to give them a nice little toss like I'm going to, that'll help that kind of marinade glaze them a little better because that soy sauce has a little bit of a sugar content in it. And that's it. Now let's build the tacos. I'm going to throw a tortilla on a plate. We're going to get out a little bit of that wasabi mayo. We're going to put it down the middle. I use it kind of as like a base. It'll hold everything together. We're going to put a little bit of lettuce on there. Then I'm going to throw in the shrimp. I'm going to do 4 in here because I think I can eat this in 4 bites. That way each bite will have 1 full shrimp. If you want smaller bites, bigger shrimp, be my guest. Do whatever you want. Throw in a little bit of those tomatoes. If you want to top it with a little extra lettuce, be my guest. And then I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of lime at the end. That's kind of more of like a Mexican taco, but I think it'll really bring out these flavors nicely. And that's it. Altogether, this was fairly cheap. That entire bag of shrimp was $20. I used less than half of them, so I put it at $9. Everything else brought that total to $13.80. As you can see, I counted the entire cost of the lime, the entire cost of the tomato, things you may not get to use again. But for $13, this is so easy and so worth it. And now on to the final dish. You really can't talk cost-effective meals without doing a rice dish. So this is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be rice. It's going to be some chicken thighs here. If you want to use chicken breast, that's totally fine. And then I have some veggies that I'm going to throw into this as well. For 2 people, I'm going to do about 1.5 cups of rice, and I'm going to cook this rice in chicken broth. But first, I'm going to give it a little bit of a rinse, and I'm also going to throw in a stick of lemongrass. I think those flavors will be really nice and kind of elevate the rice. But we're going to cook this in chicken stock. If you want to use water and keep the cost down, that's totally fine. I'm going to break up that stalk of lemongrass also so it releases its aromas a little better. And now we're just going to throw it into a rice cooker. I'm going to put carrot and zucchini into this dish as well. I'm going to box grate the carrot, and some of those pieces will go into the rice, and the rest will be kind of as a topping. We're going to give that carrot a quick peel, then we're going to run it through the box grater. You're looking for just kind of very fine pieces here. Any standard size box grater should get the job done. That's perfect. I'm going to then do the whole carrot. We're going to push that off to the side. And now we're going to chop up these chicken thighs. The thighs were honestly the cheapest the store had. They were only $9. As you can see, they're already fairly thin, so I'm just going to cut them into pieces. I'm going to try to cut off as much of the fat and some of the bloody bits on the bottom that you don't want. That kind of happens with thighs. We got about 2 portions there, very nice. This was half the package, so you only cost about $4 there. And now I'm going to do a very simple miso honey glaze for these. I'm going to marinate them in briefly. The miso you can get at most stores. It's fairly cheap and it will last you forever. Honey you should probably also have, so I'm not going to count that. Drop a soy sauce in there and then a little bit of water, and we're just going to mix this together. It should be fairly thick once you really mix it together, because that miso will really kind of thicken it up. Then we're just going to throw the chicken directly into there. Maybe let it sit for 15-20 minutes. If you can't do it at all, that's totally fine. Just pour it onto the chicken when it's done cooking, and it'll be absolutely perfect. I'm going to quickly fry up a bunch of the carrot pieces. That way when I throw them in with the rice that's already been cooking for a few minutes, they're not completely raw. Just a little bit of butter in there, a little bit of salt, and I let these go for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Once they were done, I pulled them out, I threw them onto a plate, and just put them right into my rice cooker. You don't have to do that step, but that's all I did for that. I forgot to film the beginning of the chicken here, but I had just thrown these in, just a little bit of olive oil in there. And we're going to hit them with just pepper because the miso is quite salty, so I don't want to over-season this. We're going to let this cook about 75% of the way. We're going to cook it again at the very end. So once I get it right where I want it, which won't be a ton of color because you have marinated it and it's really not cooking super hot right now, I'm going to throw it onto a sizzling platter, put it in my oven that I preheated to like 100 degrees just to keep it warm while I do the rest. At this point, we'll chop up that zucchini. I'm going to just do kind of bite-sized pieces the same way I've cut a zucchini on this channel 100 times, so I'm not going to really make you sit through that. I like to cook this at the very end, though, because these really get cold quickly if you cook them at any other point, so I try to make this the last ingredient that I cook. I'm going to put these into a pan, same way, just a little bit of olive oil in there that I've started to let heat up. And we're going to really kind of cook them until they get good and brown on one side. It should probably take maybe 3 or 4 minutes. You want to make sure you're finding that happy medium between them being way too raw and being too mushy, which is always not a great texture. I'm going to hit them with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. We're going to let that one side get a little bit of browning on it, give them a nice little toss, and then we're going to throw that chicken back in. Once we get that chicken back in, I'm also going to add in the rest of that marinade that I had made earlier, and we're going to kind of use it like a glaze. That's kind of been a theme of these dishes, is that a really nice marinade glaze really kind of elevates some cheaper ingredients. So that's why I did it. I'm going to pour that in there. We're going to give it a little bit of a toss. The chicken was 80% cooked, so you just need to kind of let it warm up for another minute or two, and then you're done. Once that rice is done, try to time those together and you'll be good to go. Now I'm just going to plate this all up. I'm going to throw everything into a bowl, and those are our 3 perfect dishes that are under 15 bucks. Here's that rice. You could see the carrots have kind of colored it a little bit and imparted some flavor. I took that lemongrass stick out also, but you'll taste those flavors in there as well. Put a little bit of that rice into the bowl. I'm going to add a little bit of the carrot onto one side. This is the raw carrot, so it'll give you a little bit of a bite, which is really nice. And I'm just going to spoon in the rest, get a little bit of that sauce out too to cover the rice. This was about 14 bucks. The rice was a super cheap. You get the huge bags of that. The chicken, we used half of it. Everything else came together right around 14 bucks. I counted the whole value of the miso. Let me know what you think about these 3 recipes, and if you want to see any more videos like this.